Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we got something different to work on. I've been working on character designs, quite a lot recently. It's been a huge focus, which is why you haven't seen many, car videos on the channel. I've been busy doing other things. So I'll share with you one of the characters I've been working on recently, which is this character design. I was really surprised with how much time it took me because it didn't take me a long time to accomplish this. It took me like a few hours. Now last year, this time, it would have been impossible. In fact, last year this time, I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing character designing. I started character designing possibly in July or August last year, so close. Now this is another character I've been working on. Now keep in mind what you see on the right side of the screen, this is my design. Still a little bit primitive, but again, I couldn't do this last year. What you see on the left hand side, this is from the course. I actually buy Jan Sculpt courses. This is not advertisement, it's not sponsored. But credit to him because these are incredible courses. And it's helped me to design characters such as this. So this is another character I'm quite proud of. So we're going to go ahead and open up a new file and start sculpting a character. Now this one will do just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I have a specific folder for my practice sculpts, and this will be another practice sculpt. And it's going to be, I'm going to call it practice 5. But right now we just want to get this save. We want to go ahead and open up sculpt. Let's see if we need to turn on screencast keys. It may be helpful for people. Okay, that's good. So this is not really a tutorial. This is just like, I'm not really teaching. This is just commentary. So I'm not really focused on teaching if I'm being completely honest, but I'm going to turn on the X symmetry. I'm going to turn up the radius. Actually, before we go ahead and start doing all of this, let me just share something. So I said we're working on a character, but what sort of character? Well, I saw this painting online. It's like a digital painting. I can't remember the artist, but I saw this painting on Twitter, I believe it was, and I was like, that looks really nice. I bet I could sculpt a character that looks similar, and that'd be this painting. This is the painting in question. I think that's the character's name, Ursa, kind of like a Russian or Polish or Ukrainian type of name. Very beautiful painting, very beautiful woman. As you can see, a woman that's more in her elder years, probably anywhere from 60, probably around 60 upwards. But it's a very strong female character. And I'm like, I actually like that. And it's quite age as well. So it would be a bit of a challenge. I'm like, that's actually quite interesting. So we could try doing something like that and see how we get along. So let's go ahead and use the grab brush. We're going to grab this part down. I want it to be relatively flat at the sides. I don't want it to be too long. It's not like the character is not particularly long. And we're going to push out the forehead just a little bit like that. We're going to push up this area a little bit like that, push up that area, just, affecting the proportions. And we got to think about the jawline. So based on what I've learned, you can drag this part back kind of like that to create a jawline. But that's not very successful. So we need to do it again, but slightly larger radius, I would say. So we're going to go with a slightly larger radius, drag this part back like that. That's interesting. Probably move this area up slightly. Probably increase the radius and move this entire area up slightly, kind of like this. That's a bit more interesting. Probably push this area in slightly. It'd be really good if we can get the image up here. Perhaps we can do it this way. UV editor, go to our download file. Ah, that's perfect. So we can use this as our example right there. But I don't want this in the background, so I think maybe image editor. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, so that's Ursa. You can see the jawline is actually quite prominent, especially at the sides. So we can sort of drag this down slightly. Probably need to carry it out kind of like that, like open it up slightly, kind of like this. This area is a little bit indented. Due to the cheekbone right there, it's a little bit indented right there, even though the jawline is prominent. Cheekbone is quite prominent as well, as you can see. So the nose will be somewhere around there, the eyes will be somewhere around here. So we're going to move this part up. This would be where our eyes are. We can actually move this within slightly. Doesn't have to be by too much, just slightly. Can turn down the radius, so basically like turning down the strength slightly. Kind of like this. Now the forehead is quite prominent. Very prominent, in fact. Got that tomboy kind of haircut. I hope I don't offend anyone listening, because that's not meant to be offensive. That's just like a general term, but these days we kind of have to be a little bit more careful with our language. So I just want to affect the proportions a little bit like this. I know it's not that like the head is not that, over exaggerated, but if this is the eyes right there, that's the eyebrow, that so we can actually move the eyes down slightly. Can also move the eyebrows down slightly as well. That could be a little bit better. And already we're starting to see a little shape being formed. We can save this in a new increment. I'm going to save it in another increment because we want to remesh this. And if we remesh it, that's what we're going to get. We got that prominent forehead. We got that prominent cheekbone right there, or jawline, I should say. Well, they're both prominent, both the cheekbone and the jawline. Eye socket right there. You know what we need to do? Symmetrize. There we go. Now that looks a little bit better. We're going to zoom into this. I want to smooth it down, but, the strength needs to be not a lot. Not a lot at all. And this area of the forehead needs to be a little bit more prominent. Going to smoothen all of these areas out slightly. So this area of the forehead, we can already start to think about this using a grab brush from the sides. Increase the radius. And I want to push this out slightly like that. Reduce the radius. Same thing with this area, like this. So the sides as well, like that. Now I know that looks ridiculous, but we can always, just edit the proportions once again. This area needs to be a little bit higher, not too high. Push this in, push this back, push this down. That's a little bit better. It's already developing that kind of look that we're going for. Okay, this would be a good time. We can start defining some of these features a little bit more. Let's go to the draw brush right there. You know what? We may need to move we may need to move this thing. There we go. Let's just move the screencast key so it's not in our way too much. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay, so we know we got the eyes around here somewhere. Let's use the minus brush right there so it basically take away. And we just want to start off gentle. The nose is, especially around this area, the nose is actually, very narrow. And as it dips below, it starts to edge out a little bit more, and then it pushes down a little bit more like that. So now we're in like a different phase, just developing these basic shapes. You got the prominent eyebrow area right there. And then this area where the forehead resides, it's kind of a bit more flat. Probably not that flat if I'm being honest. What if we try to smooth this out? Would it make any difference? Probably would, but I don't want to take away that much from it just yet. The problem is that with this brush, the strength is just turned up a little bit too much. So we just need to, there we go. Just need to reduce it. This area. So you got this area of the character right there, just around the mouth, which is where, as we get older, this starts to become more obvious as time and age goes on. Notice the nose as well. So mouth is somewhere around here. We're just going to raise this area slightly. And it's very thin. It's very thin. So want to be careful with that as well. But somewhere around here, this is where this area is is raised because the age. The age of the individual also matters. We're gonna, you know, give this some more prominence as well. We're coming up to the phase where we may want to remesh this once again. And in this area there's like that gap, because I don't even know what to call this. But around this entire area, but I can't see from the sides so clearly. And we've got the cheekbone right there, a little bit more prominent, but I can't see from the sides, which is unfortunate. But clearly, right in there, there's a structure where it's indented. So we're going to account for that as well. This would be a good time to, I'd say, then save. So we should have about 3 increments by now. So this is character 5, this is character 4, this is character 3, basically what we started with. So let's go back to character 5. This is good. So if we wanted to, we could literally, save another increment and remesh. But how much do we want to remesh by? Maybe 0.06. Truth to be told, I prefer, get into the stage where I can play with the clay, a lot more. So we're gonna, give this a lot more prominence. We know this right here is very prominent because especially, it gets rather close to this area. There looks like there is something going on here where the character forehead is. But of course we want to be extra careful with that. So we just want to smoothen this area out. Don't know how this is going to look. Want to smooth this area out as well. Start getting an idea of what's going on. Smooth this area out. Gonna smooth out this entire area. That's part of the nose right there, by the way. You can see it's taken on a prominent shape. So before I modeled the character, before I even started this tutorial, I was thinking to myself, it'd be cool, because I'm no expert in this, but it'd be interesting to see, like, could I model this character at this age, like in the 60s, in her 60s? Or could I model a younger version of her in her 30s or in her 20s? There's so much, or a middle-aged version of her, What happened there? Think I lost my file. There it is. Just Blender being Blender. So those were a few thoughts. Now, so far, the character is actually looking very masculine, which is, I mean, I don't want it to look too masculine because it's not supposed to be a man. It's still a woman. So, and I struggle with doing that. I don't know if I'm the only person who struggles with this, but I struggle to model females in Blender. I think males are just easier to model because males typically the uglier of the species between women and, so females tend to be more beautiful. And in order to, you got to get those features right and correct. You can see right here, this line is wrong. It needs to be around here. It needs to be around here like that. So we add this right here. So that's interesting what we have so far. Got a general idea of what we're working with the eyebrows and stuff like that. So at this stage, may want to subdivide once again. Got that cheekbone right there. So that's interesting. So the question is, where do we go from here? Let's say we save this, we create a new increment, and let's say we remesh this by, I'd say by 30, by 0.03. So now this is the phase that I tend to really enjoy sculpting because we're no longer in the low mesh stage. We're working with slightly more complex shape. And let's symmetrize. Let's add some form right here. Not take away, but add form instead. So we know the nose is really it's interesting how it's positioned right here. But it's also bridge over there, It's like an arch nose. Don't know how to explain it, to be honest. We just add some volume, particularly around here. It's a really powerful and strong kind of nose. And let's take away from here, because like I said, this area is narrow. At the nose itself, it widens, particularly further down like that. See what I mean? Tends to look more like a male sort of character. I don't really want, and this shape needs to run all the way up here. Let's use the draw sharp. I use that sometimes to create some lines. The strength is a little bit high, so we'll turn down the strength a little bit. But yeah, I use this sometimes, just to get a bit more of a design going on. You can see right here, what I like to use sometimes is the clay strips brush. I love to use this thing to add form, especially when it comes to shapes that are sort of connecting, kind of like this right here. This brush right here, I do love the clay strip brush, because you can have so much fun, just going, just sculpting and just adding form until you get something a bit more interesting. See, still looks like a female. Sorry, still looks like a male. And notice the nose, it's too prominent. Like right here, that's too prominent. Sometimes what I do is to grab the grab brush and manually affect it like this. May just carry this one out a little bit more like that. Sometimes this is what I do, because particularly around here, the nose is supposed to be, on this particular character, the nose is way more flat up here. Not the entire way, but right there in particular, it's a bit more flat. This area is a bit more edged in, but it's very narrow right there. And you can see those lines right there. Can we use the draw sharp? Turn down the radius, take away, and we're just adding those lines right there. Gonna add some lines around that. This is also something that I do. I don't know if I'm just the only one, but I like to do this sometimes, where I just add lines in areas that I think like there needs to be particular distinction for the character. Because it also reminds me like where the character is going. All in all, there needs to be a line right there, something like this. Due to just what I can see, feels like there's something right there, which makes sense because that's part of your jaw right there. Something else that we can also start to hint at would be the lips. Now we can always affect the proportions as well, as we continue. I don't like how it looks though, like this, it doesn't. So I'm gonna undo some of that, and I'm gonna try again, turning up the strength, however. Okay, we may need to remesh, and sometimes if it still doesn't play nice, I sometimes do this, just smooth it out a little bit, and then I use the same brush, the same draw sharp brush, and I start adding this, just the outline, just the outline. I start just adding the outline, just like that. But I think we can still remesh this and symmetrize, I'd say. Remesh once again. We may need to, because you can see I don't like this that it creates sometimes, where it adds these damn bubbles. So we'll try again. There we go. That's a lot better. And it's in terms of the lip itself, it's a bit more of a flat type of design. So I'm just going to add some volume. Just going to add some volume right there. And I have no idea how this is going to turn out, because it's like, it's sculpting to lichen. So, which not particularly good at, but we gotta practice. Smooth down this area as well. I don't even want this area to be all that prominent. And what I will do, as this is looking terrible, I don't know why it's looking like this, but it's not looking particularly well. But considering that I'm doing this in such short period of time, that'd probably be why. But I'm going to push this out with the grab brush. Just can't afford to do it too much. Just affecting the proportions slightly. Now, I think it's to do with the attention to detail. It just feels like perhaps I haven't spent enough time, smoothing out some of these areas. So let's remesh, but I'm gonna move the mesh back up, which is something that I do quite often. So it's not looking good at all, which I don't particularly like. I'm gonna add some lines right here. That's a little bit too strong in my opinion. But I like the way this feels like that. But how about the chin? Need to add a chin. So let's get this added around there. Let's smooth this down. Just gonna smooth out a lot of this because I don't like the way how it's looking. Yeah, I don't quite like the way how this is looking in terms of just some parts, but we're going to take away, going to remove some volume from around here. Then we're going to smooth this a little bit, smooth that. To be honest, this is not too bad. Like I can clearly see that there's some potential. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back into the object mode and we're going to add some, well, just going to add a UV sphere. And I'm going to use my mouse to, well, for one, I'm going to need going to need a mirror modifier for this one. We're going to go into edit mode. I'm going to press S to scale this down. Going to bring it forward, sort of like that. Going to rotate it on the x-axis 90 degrees like this. Going to move it to this side, scale it down, and we're going to carry it back within like this. Scale it up slightly. Don't want it to be too big, but we also don't want it to be too small. Somewhere around there, like this. Carry it within. Looking at this from the sides will also help tremendously, because it's the high ball, so it's not supposed to be too far forward, I don't think. Also lower it slightly, kind of like this. We can always edit it, move it around again if we need to. But let's go back into sculpting mode with our character like this. And I know it's not looking good, but the next stage is where we start to like add some volume in other areas. So it may start to change the design gradually. Okay, so we made some adjustments, mostly to the character proportion, because I just did not like the way it was going. It's gonna get rid of the lip right there. Gonna try to smooth things out. That's another thing with the nose as well. Gonna try to edit it some more. That's another thing as well, is the areas of the eyes. Need to do some work on these areas, that's for sure. So we're gonna add some volume, particularly around these areas. Gonna add some volume around these areas as well. Can smooth this down slightly. And we need to add some volume around these areas. Most of this we gotta smooth out. Just notice how the eyes are actually designed as well. While on ours it's slanted up, on the character it's actually slanted down. At this point it's slanted down. Quite interestingly actually. So we can actually use the grab brush in this scenario and sort of drag this area down like this. So this area is still higher up like that. Can push this area in slightly. Can also drag this area in slightly. Let's look at this from afar. Let's see how it looks. That's a bit more interesting. I'm gonna go back to the clay strip brush. Can continue adding some volume around there. So that's more interesting. Then we can smoothen this. And this area should be a little bit more arch. Kind of like that. Now we need to edit the eyeball. Going to edit mode, and we need to carry this down slightly. Kind of like that, I would say. But still want to carry it back in slightly more like that. That could do. Go back to object mode. We'll go back into sculpting. Now with this area, I want to adjust the proportions of these areas like this. I'm going to add some volume, smoothing out this area. We need to add some volume around this area as well. Using the jaw sharp brush, I'm going to indent this area right here. Similar thing right here. That's pretty good. We can then remesh once again. Can then add some volume from this area. Add some volume from this area as well. Can just smoothen out this area. So I know I haven't been talking this entire time, but that's also because kind of want to, focus on the work as well without talking too much and getting too distracted. But that's looking a lot better. It's actually looking more like an old person. We can add this once again like this. Can add some volume right there. Add some volume right there. Need some volume right there. Need some volume right there. That's actually interesting. Like it's starting to look like something. So saving in a couple more increments. Smoothing out this area. You can see these areas, they also need some work. Even though that's not our main focus at the moment. But I'm saying like this is looking more encouraging, and it's actually looking like an older character, which we kind of wanted. We're going to turn down the strength on the jaw sharp brush. You know what I think? I think this area needs to be lowered, kind of like this. Yeah, I think it needs to be lowered. I'm just going to smoothen out this area, of course. But in terms of like just, having a little practice, say this is looking way more encouraging. The shade smooth brush is a little bit strong right now in particular. And you know what? I feel as if with the way the character is designed, in the painting at least, I feel like this area kind of runs up there. Not too sure how to describe it. But that's just how it feels like. It feels like this feels more flat than anything else. Oh, that's a little bit too strong right there. I'd say turn this down slightly. And notice something. Notice right there where this area starts. Almost as if this entire thing, like the nose, it feels like this area really starts around there. Let's add a line right there. It's just something that I notice. Yeah, it sort of feels like the nose sort of starts around there somewhere. So we're going to start to, edge out this area. And we may just need to make the nose a little bit more pointy, particularly around this area. But that's mostly just perception. Like if we're going to edit this area, we're going to need to see it from that area as well. Probably just bring this area down slightly. That is interesting. I think we need to remove some volume from this area just slightly. So we're going to turn down this brush. We're just going to remove some volume around this area slightly. Symmetrize, remesh, and then shade. But very strategical with how we're doing this. I feel like we need to remove from this area as well. But this area needs volume added. And that's what it is. Some area just needs volume being added. Some area needs volume being removed. Let's just make this a bit more prominent right there. Also going to do the opposite right here. Just adding some sharp lines right there just to emphasize where everything is. Then we can shade smooth a little bit more. Probably a little bit more on the gentler side of shade smoothing, however. Then we can use the draw brush and add some volume around these areas. So that's interesting. It is actually looking like an older person should, which is good. I gotta say that I wasn't sure how it would turn out, but it's actually looking like an older person should, you know. Places like this, we just want to make sure we get this right. There's just little lines right here. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but for a stylized character, may have some interest in being there. You can also start highlighting where you think the eyebrows may in fact be. So we tried the lips before, didn't work so well. Kind of want to try it once again, just to see how it would look. So I kind of want to draw the outline first. Kind of want to draw the outline first, kind of like that. And then take away from this area. Kind of like this. Can also use the grab brush to just affect the proportions, like bringing this up, bringing this down slightly, bringing this area up, probably pushing this out slightly, really not too much. And then use the clay strip brush, and I like to take away from this area. Same thing right there. Take away from this area, smoothing it out slightly. We can once again take away from this area. I'd say take away from this area as well. And we can then smoothen this area out. Smoothen this area out as well. And we're going to use the draw brush. Try and increase the prominence of this area. And probably add an outline to this area right here. Just increasing the prominence of everything. And as for this area, we'll just take away from this area. I think it's more or less supposed to be like this. Hope I haven't gotten this area wrong, but I think it's supposed to be more like that. I'm going to smoothen out this area right here. This would take a bit more work to get right, to make sure it looks proper, but it definitely needs to be smoothen out quite a bit more. Although, have you noticed this area needs to have more volume being removed? So it's little things like that, little attention to detail areas like this needs to have more volume being removed. And I think this line right here sort of attaches closer to the nose, kind of like that. And this area as well. Okay. You can see the dimples within there. So this needs to be taken away. We're moving volume from here and then from this area in general, and we're just going to smoothen out this area. Okay, welcome back everyone. So, modeling this has been incredible. Now, I must also say my microphone cut out during the recording stage. So, I lost like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of me talking, but I'll still play that. You're probably watching it right now as I speak. So, you'll still be able to see the progress. Hopefully, you're watching that right now because the screen was recording, but the audio was not recording. But this is Ursa, and this is what we've created thus far. And after I finished the recording, I think like a day or two later, I worked on it a little bit more without recording it, just to change a few things, made a few changes, nothing too crazy. But this is Ursa. So, we spoke about the character initially, that it was posted on Twitter. I wasn't sure where this is from, but it's really amazing. Now I've found out where it's from. So this is where it's from. It's from the Predator series. I think this is I think this is the movie name Killer of the Killers. Really great Predator movie, fully animation, amazing movie. So this is where the character is from. And I actually watched the movie and I rewatched it after finding out that this is where the character is from. I was like, wow, this is incredible. But it's a great, it's an absolutely amazing that I've now discovered that it's this that I've been sculpting. And maybe eventually we can sculpt this character. Now this was incredible. I remember this. I think the Predator movie with this character is called Prey. Amazing movie. Really amazing movie. Probably worth a rewatch. Now, I love character designing, and I've been trying to accomplish this for a very long time. Like, seriously. So, we're going to create a new increment, and I think we can possibly do a little bit more work. I think I want to use the mask tool. Let's use the mask tool. There's a little beeping in the background. Hopefully you guys can't hear that because it's really annoying. At least it's annoying me. So yeah, we're going to use the mask tool particularly to affect this area. Going to go to Control I. There we go. Then we can use the grab tool, increase the radius, and grab this down like that. You know, got to get the neck right. Probably won't be so easy. So I'm just trying to do something here. Probably need to do this as well. That's probably too much. Now the neck is really rather short, so probably need to increase this area like that. Bring that down like this. Probably something like that. Probably something like this, something like this. Probably something like that. Probably something like this. Yeah, probably something like that. And then we want to get rid of the mask tool. Only problem is, can't remember how to get rid of the mask tool. Ah, there we go. So that was option M. I thought it was something like that. So we may just want to remesh this and then smooth it out, particularly around this area. Smooth brush is actually really strong right now. Even though it doesn't feel particularly strong, it is actually quite a bit strong right now. I'm gonna smooth out this area as well. And again, this is just what I've been practicing for the last few months. Been doing a lot of practicing on character sculpt. And I want to continue that. Really been enjoying it, particularly now that I'm starting to get a hang of it. Really been enjoying it. So I know this is not super impressive. Why does this brush, the brush doesn't feel particularly strong. It's kind of weird. I don't know why. But this brush is usually really strong, but it doesn't feel that strong right now. But anyway, we want to add some little details. Got to be careful right there. We don't want it to affect the chin necessarily. Sort of goes up there. So just adding some form really. Can add some form right there as well. Let's not forget this is an old lady as well. I won't get too graphical. Also, I'm no expert in Like I'm no expert in anatomy, I believe it's pronounced. But also that's something that I've been working on recently is anatomy. Been working a little bit more on anatomy recently, which is good, because we want to get a good handle of that as well. Because if we can get a good handle of anatomy, then it's really going to take us to the next level. So, yeah, going forward, want to continue focusing on, character sculpt, and eventually we will be able to, I believe, eventually we'll be able to sort of focus on other stuff such as retopology, which I don't know how to do that, but eventually we can start focusing on that retopology, and then texturing. So texturing, you can texture in Blender, you can texture in ZBrush. I don't know ZBrush, so that's another thing I've got to learn. Although I bought ZBrush, so I can start learning ZBrush soon. But before I got into ZBrush, I just wanted to first, get a handle of sculpting, because I don't know ZBrush, but I do know Blender a little bit. So I'm like, let me get a handle of sculpting, and then we can transition to ZBrush. And now that I've got you know, I'm starting to understand sculpting. I know deep down that I could probably sculpt in ZBrush and pick it up relatively easy. So I think I made the right choice, sort of like sticking sticking with Blender. I think I made the right choice to focus on sculpting and sticking with Blender, because that's what I'm most comfortable with. But in a few months, we'll be looking, at other areas such as texturing, more complex character, sculpting, more challenges. So this is just what I wanted to do, just to finish out the tutorial. Just create this little area right there, which is good. So we're not just talking about, sculpting a head in this tutorial, but also just giving it a bit of a body. Not much, but just giving it a bit of a body. That's cool. That's pretty cool. So this is where I'm gonna end the tutorial. I know the proportions are not correct. The head is the head looks way too big compared to the body. So I know it's not correct, okay? But we're just practicing. We're just practicing and learning. And this is the nice thing about just practicing and learning. You can make mistakes. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I really hope you have. If you really have enjoyed the tutorial and you want to see us continue the tutorial, I will be happy to continue sculpting this character, for practice and making tutorials on it. Not too much tutorials, because I'm going to make a character sculpting course for male and female. So this is free. This is free for all the loyal subscribers. And for all the people who want to give sculpting a try. Listen, character sculpting is where it's at in 3D, in my personal opinion. And this year I want to focus on stylized characters. Next year I want to focus on hyper realistic characters and realistic characters. But this is looking great. So hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Remember now to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment with your suggestions and opinions, thoughts. But yeah, I am loving sculpting lately. I've finally gotten to a place where I'm like, it's starting to flow, which is a nice place to be. It's like flow state, but flow state, like when you're working late at night and you hit flow state. I've hit flow state, but it's working over the course of months. Working over the course of months, I finally feel like I've hit some motion of flow state. So right now sculpting, it's been great. Feel like I've hit flow state. So, with that being said, I feel like I can share a little bit as well. I've been continuing on with this character. Like I said, focusing on autonomy now. Anatomy, my mistake. I've got tons of different ideas that I do want to work on. So yeah, I think it's looking good. I think it's really looking good, you know? Like I'm definitely going to continue this. The idea of this character, the original idea, let me show you. This is the original idea for this character. And you know, that's it. I wasn't too happy with it, but this is what I was capable of. I'd say, what was this, like 2 months ago or something? And it's not bad. It's not bad. But compare it to this, it's like, whoa, it's night and day. So that's just the improvements you can make if you keep practicing. Okay, let's end it now. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to see more, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.